filmmaker, but also a producer, a director, a cinematographer, and I assume an editor. So
Yeah.
when you say filmmaker, you mean all around.
Yeah, I guess so. A victim.
And you're rowing, I see that you're wearing the Road to the Lemon Grove.
Yes, it is. I am. This is the movie.
And we were going to hear to talk about that
Yes.
because you've got an exciting thing happening. You're opening on Labor Day.
Yes.
So thank you for your time because you must be busy up to your eyeballs.
It's been crazy. I got informed last night that our trailer is going to be in a whole bunch of cinemas across Canada, and I'm just like, okay, so we have to make our DCPs overnight, get them couriered so that they're there for Friday, and they go on the screens Friday evening in front of Quentin Tarantino's movie and all these other movies. I was like, okay, let's go, let's do it. So yeah, it's
And I really want to talk about that, and it's very exciting. But this is for an archive, and it's for PAL Archives.
Yeah.
And as you know, PAL's been around for about 20 years now. And Norman's been working on the archives, and we decided, well, let's get some digital material.
Yeah.
You know, so you're one of the first.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations. We've
Thank
got a
you.
couple, but we're starting to get it more formalized now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I usually start with basics. When and where were you born?
I was born in southern Manitoba on a Mennonite farm in the middle of nowhere in a small village by the name of Hildebrand.
I was glad you were going to say it, because there's no way.
In English, that means half town. And I remember bringing my parents to the World Series game where Joe Carter hit a home run.
Oh, really?
And we put a sign out in the outfield. We were right behind Joe Carter. We put a sign that said Hildebrand, Manitoba Fan Club. Population 8, half of them are here, you know. And it ended up in the Minneapolis Herald or all kinds of newspapers in the States. It was silly, you know.
Well, for those who are ignorant of the geography, you're talking really southern Manitoba.
Yes,
You're
right.
talking North of North Dakota, southern Manitoba.
A half a mile from North Dakota, 4 miles from Minnesota, right along the border.
And a Mennonite community.
Correct,
A
yeah.
German Mennonite community.
Yes, yeah.
Now, you want to tell me how from there you end up here? But the long form, but I mean, I'm impressed by that. I mean, that is.
Well, you know what, I think...
what's the first film you saw there? There wasn't going to be in the cinema.
No, the first film I saw, there's 2 films, and we drove down to Grand Forks, and it was something like, it was a, what is his name? Native Indian guy, was very sexy in the time era, not Chuck Norris, it was, oh God, what was his name?
Raoul Tahiti?
No, long before him. It was the era of Tower Inferno and all that sort of stuff.
Well, the one that comes to mind is Jay Silverhills, but you don't know about Jay Silverhills because he was Tonto.
No, it was more popular.
It doesn't come to mind.
Yeah, and then so it was that and Young Frankenstein, I think, were the 2 movies I saw, were my first movies in a theater.
So you weren't totally deprived. You must have got CBC.
We had 1.5 channels on our black and white television, and we had our farm, we had a 1 hand pump in our house. It would freeze in the winter. We would melt our snow for drinking water at times. We had a cash and carry toilet. It was...
So your parents second generation, or did
Second generation.
From Germany, right?
Well, Hildebrand is a Dutch name.
Oh, okay. So
and
Dutch.
the Mennonites migrated to Prussia, and from Prussia to Canada.
Oh,
And
okay.
from Canada, they went down to Mexico and South America.
Right.
So they're all over the place.
So you were brought up in Mennonite?
Yes.
Because I went on the website. You have that little historic church there.
Yeah.
In the town.
Yeah.
So sort of proud to display this sort of first Mennonite church or something.
Yeah. So it's not old order or anything like that.
Okay.
But. And my dad was a reeve of the municipality, so he knew everybody, and everybody knew him, and so it was a good group of people to grow up with,
So you progressed to where, Winnipeg, or where'd you go from there?
No, well, actually, when I was
education.
Yeah, high school originally, and then I went at 18, actually 17. I left to go and I worked on Calgary. I came back to try to finish my schooling, and at 18, I went to the Philippines on a program, and I lived there for, I don't know, close to a year sort of thing, and it woke me up. My parents...
Was this a federal government program?
Yeah.
Sort of an outreach program?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and my parents did like to travel. They did always travel a lot, so I guess that was in my blood, but I've traveled a lot throughout my life, and I think that was probably a big start, big impetus at that point,
So where did you get your formal education, or did you?
Oh, then I went to Winnipeg, and I went to University of Winnipeg for theater for a little bit.
Okay.
And then I went working in a number of places, and I was living in Edmonton, and it was just when music videos were starting. And I was a VJ at the time, and I had to get content was almost impossible. We had to buy content. Much music, it was just at the start of Much Music, just pre that. And we had to, I had to buy music videos out of New York for like $89 each or something like that. And we had them shipped to Edmonton. And so we started making our own content because we didn't have content. And then Much Music came out, and MTV, and then, you know, all that sort of started flying.
So I did notice that you were into music videos as a sort of a starting, which a lot of people at that time, the 80s, it's
correct.
for that.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, when you were in Winnipeg and Edmonton, did you get in touch with any sort of Winnipeg Film Group or any of the other filmmakers around?
No, not at that time. I mean,
because Winnipeg was a real humming center for Guy Madden and the Winnipeg Film Group.
Correct. This was just before that, so in Edmonton, I thought, doing those music videos. At one point, we were commissioned to do a video and all these different things, and I thought I wanted to get a formal education, and I was looking at different schools. I was going to move to Vancouver. Last minute, I found out about York University, which was one of the top 3 in Canada, in North America for film school at the time.
Absolutely.
So,
one of the best there is.
So yeah, so I studied at York for 4 years, and after that, I got in. My first feature was Key Grip. I didn't know what a key grip was. The next picture was First AD.
Slow down. Okay. I don't know if I was talking about York. So yeah, you're absolutely right about York.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been Ryerson or maybe York, but Ryerson was, it is now probably equal, but certainly in those days, they had the best undergraduate program.
Yes, and
a real alumni came out of there.
Yeah, there was a good group of people and a lot of great
real good professors and a real commitment.
Yeah.
Which more than the University of Toronto, which was more academic.
Correct.
Coming out of York, you learned how to do stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not just technical. I mean, you got to make your, make your mistakes in making all these different films and that. And we had some professors that I learned a lot of stuff from. It was great, you know.
And then you segued into the music video business, which was really hopping in Toronto in the 80s.
Yeah, a bit of music video and features. Right away, I was into features as well. And it just...
well, I did notice you were producing some pretty low-budget direct-to-video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So quickly...
How'd that come about?
Yeah, quickly I got into first ADing, line producing, co-producing, and then producing. And I think I made something like 5 different, as we refer to as chop-socky movies, you know. And they were low-budget pictures, but I learned a lot. And you're doing everything, you know what I mean? Everything on set. And we had a good group of people. We worked hard, and we delivered. I mean, the problem with those type of pictures was, it was locked. The cast was locked, and the budget was locked before the script was even written. And the worse the script, the more they liked it. Or you got a hole in the plot, they add another fight scene. It was silly, but it was fun.
I'm familiar with the market.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed after that there's almost a 10-year break.
Yeah.
If you go to your IMDb,
yeah.
where it's not my only source, but it's one of the sources. And I did notice a 10-year break in there. You'd done those chop suey or whatever they call them. I call them direct-to-video. What used to be direct-to-video is no longer anymore.
Yeah.
And then there was a 10-year gap before you really started being serious about doing the documentary work, which I want to talk about. But what was that 10-year gap about?
Well, I had one project.
Disillusionment? Or?
No, I had a project where I got, how should I say this politely? I got sort of a very misfortunate deal took place, and the partner had sort of robbed me blind in a certain way, and it was quite unfortunate, you know. So I had a bit of that problem at that time, but it's not like I stopped. I kept making tons of content, but they weren't in the movies. They were a lot of, I had a huge client, for example, the Dairy Farmers of Canada.
Oh, okay.
Where we did kids series, and which would go to schools across Canada. And they were, broadcast quality, but we made tons of those, that sort of content. It's part of it, but it also was screenwriting a lot. And in LA, it was known as a screenwriter at the time, and up here was known as a line producer. So, you get pigeonholed in certain groups, certain groups knows me as a director of photography. There's certain groups will know me as a director, certain groups, and you got to try to reinvent yourself or break that mold.
Yeah.
But I had a number of scripts optioned in LA. I made a lot of money off of it, but the bigger the budget, the longer it took, and eventually they didn't go to camera. Made money, but they just didn't go. So, and I was tired of optioning out my scripts, and I thought, I wanted to make my own content. I would get back into my roots of where I love to be. I love to make movies, and so I got back into making movies, and I thought, it was between this and another script I was going to do, and the other script, it was kept coming out a little too Hollywood for my liking. And when you're doing low budget type of stuff, you gotta, you can't compete with that. So you got to make it different, And so
So you did spend some time in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you were making money within the business.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah.
Then in 2004, you turn around. Well, not so much turn around, but presumably do another project which must be close to the heart, which is called
Presenza. Yes.
Presenza.
Yeah.
Which is about Italian Canadians and the stereotypes about Italian Canadians.
Correct. Yeah.
Where did that come from? From a Mennonite deep sea? I just sort of looking at it and said, where did that come from?
Well, it's interesting.
Are you married to is Jill
Yes.
Is she your wife?
She is.
All right.
Yes.
Pronounce her last name for me.
Amadio or Amadio.
So you got it down, Norm? We were trying to figure that one out.
Canadian delivery is Amadio, and the actual term would be love God Amadio sort of thing. So.
And she's your work partner.
Yes, we work together.
Co-producer and writer and whatnot.
Yeah.
So when did you meet Jill?
We met in film school, and we actually had a photography class together, and we didn't talk to each other at all.
In New York here?
Yes, in New York.
Yeah.
And then the next year, because I was with somebody else, she was with somebody else, and the next year we happened to meet, and we were, separate, and we started connecting and started talking, and 10 years later, we eventually got married. We took our time, but it was great.
And when you turned to documentary, you turned to Presenter, which is about Italian Canadians.
Yes, yeah. So I was doing a bunch of commercials, and I did one commercial, and a couple of commercials for Omni at the time. And so we discussed this thing about Presenza, and it just sort of came to life. So I did that, and then we did another documentary after that. Pardon my postpartum. Yeah.
Was that another one you did with your wife?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, support women that have gone through postpartum depression and stuff like that. But we also have a sort of a comedy written, and I thought, well, here's the thing. Like you just said, how do you get into this Italian subject, or how do you get into a subject matter that's dealing just with women's issues, sort of thing? And a lot of people say, well, how can you do all those things? But as a filmmaker, you embrace them. You research those worlds, and you enter them, and you live them, and vicariously. But you try to tell a story. And whether, it's like saying, how can you tell a story about a woman? Well, there's men and women in films. I'm not a woman, but I will research my character. I will try to get to know the type of person I'm trying to tell the story about. And I think that's the main thing. And bottom line is, it's all about telling stories, no matter what. And so that's you got to string that thread through the needle, sort of thing.
Well, I heard one quote which I think is quite true: is there no new stories? It's just in the telling. It's the telling of the stories.
Yeah, I suppose. They say there are only like 4 or 5 different stories out there, right?
Well, certainly within the construct, and I used to teach this sort of thing. Right?
Yeah.
Teach aesthetics. Within the construct of feature filmmaking, commercial feature filmmaking, there are 4 solid storylines.
Yeah.
You know what they are? I teach this sort of stuff. I'm sorry to show off here.
Please.
The obvious one is Quest.
Yes.
Which is Lord of the Rings. But any bank robbery, anything where you're trying to achieve something, and whether it's rescuing a girl from kidnapping or revenge is a quest. So the quest is even The Godfather to a certain extent is a quest. It's Michael turning into a monster over a period of time.
And Joseph Campbell's theories on all that sort of stuff.
Secondly is the oldest story in the world, which is the Romeo and Juliet, boy meets girl, which is now variations of boy meets boy, girl meets girl, boy meets dog. I mean, those variations always work.
Yeah.
It's called romantic comedy. Guarantee you it works. If the chemistry is there, it was made back 60, 70 years ago, it continues to be made, and it's your basic why, because everyone falls in love at some time in their life.
Yeah.
Now, the other one is a bit smaller, which is a fish out of water, which is, you get the humor from the most famous one of the most famous, like Eddie Murphy Coming to America.
Yeah.
You take a character who's imbued in one culture and then you put him in another culture.
Yeah.
And the humor comes from that sort of thing, right? And then, God, the fourth one now will be put on the spot. It'll come to me, but there is a fourth one.
Car chase.
Coming of age.
No, I'm kidding. Coming of age, yes.
Which is the story of whether a girl or a boy, the coming of age story.
Yes.
Is a very big one too. So, but they're the sort of the basic, if you follow the storylines, the quest and the boy meets girl, you can pretty much basic. Avatar. Yeah. It's a quest to get that friggin' tree and get all the gold out of the tree, right?
Yeah.
Titanic, it's a love story.
Yeah.
Set with all the special effects. Well, it turns out that Star Wars is a quest to find his father.
Yeah.
It's just basic material that people respond to. Now they also respond to the fact that it's broken down into 3 parts. So why 3 parts? You have the beginning, the middle, and the end. I'm sure you learned that in film school, right?
Yeah.
The beginning, and why does it break down in that? Because human beings tell that story.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, there are only so many stories you tell, and how you tell them. Because you're born, you live, you die.
Yeah.
Now, there's a very famous quote that Samuel Fuller said, which is, what is film about? Well, film is about life and death. Violence. In other words, emotion. If you can get someone to be emotionally involved in what you're doing, you have a success on your hands.
Well, I always look at myself as the job of a director. It's the writer's job to write the words. But as a director, it's my job to help the actors find the magic in between the words. And because it's not just about delivering the lines, it's the cadence, it's the musicality of everything that you try to create an emotional sort of field that you play in. And if you can do that, not just in force, but in pause and pregnant pause, or that sort of thing. You're able to convey a sense of emotion that hopefully hits home with people.
Well, I've always been told, and maybe you agree or not, that it always begins with a script to begin with.
Yeah.
It's the script that starts the whole process.
Yeah.
And then, as you say, it's a director's concentration on that, the actors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the other stuff that's going around.
Yeah.
But if they all talk about Cronenberg or Goyen, they just talk about the director. He's talking to his actors.
Yeah.
And that's what they say some directors like Hitchcock would just move his actors like furniture, but that's a different story. Most directors can't get away with that sort of thing. You have to, as you say, build that trust and create that emotional bond. And if you get that, then the magic happens. Now, you move on to that, to what was apparently a project of love, and also a chap named Charlie, what's his last name?
Chiarelli.
He's a friend of yours, or?
Well, we met when I was filming the documentary Presenza.
Okay.
And I'd never met him before, but when we met at that point, I said, it's interesting, the way you're telling the story is similar to a story that I want to tell someday, a story that I've been working on. And, eventually, it was many years later, we did connect with it, but it took a long time before, even clearing my slate to do it. It took me 2.5 years just to clear the slate to make the movie. So it took time till we found our home with it, I guess,
Well, to explain to the people who are watching this, Charlie plays the lead character.
Correct.
He's the character who's going to the lemon grove.
Correct, yeah.
So that's what I want to say. He's also the co-author of it. Is he not the co-author of the screenplay?
Correct, yeah.
And he's also a linguist.
Yes.
And the character that he plays is a?
Linguist.
Linguist.
Linguistics professor.
So it seems to be part of his project as well as part of yours, and because this is about the Sicilian heritage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me talk a little bit about that. How did the Mennonite boy from southern Manitoba start getting involved in the Sicilian heritage, which is long and complex?
Well,
and full of stereotypic mafioso images.
And here's the thing, we try to play on those stereotypes, you know what I mean? We try to play on them, a little tongue-in-cheek. We have these spaghetti western references, these Fellini movie type of references and all that sort of stuff. But to answer your question, I want to go back, and you know, when I first started dating my wife, her grandmother really liked me, and she wanted me eventually to be the pallbearer at her funeral. Yes, she was close to dying at that time, and so I ended up being the pallbearer. And at the funeral, one of my wife's aunts took my wife's grandmother, her mother, like her aunt's mother, took her finger, her dead mother's finger, and used it on a scratch and win ticket. And I said, someday I'm going to put that in a movie.
Which of course it shows up.
And it is. So there were many events like that of true life stuff that we put in the movie. Right. Like even the old uncle with the donkey called America. Yeah. That's taken from true life stories, sort of thing, you know. And that's part of Charlie's stories. And so we did a lot of those things. So I found the Italian community when I first came here. You know, when I first moved to Toronto for school, and I was living in the Italian community, and I loved the sense of joy, the expressions, the emphatic yes or no, whatever it is, they were committed, and I loved that about them, and that's what I got to enjoy about the Italian community and my wife's family and both sides of the family, and eventually I thought, I want to make some sort of story out of this, and the collaboration with Charlie, that's what it came to.
And it speaks directly to he has a number of monologues.
Yes,
he directly to the camera, and he speaks directly about the Italian experiences. He says how they were stereotyped, and how they were from a very complex, very ancient tribe.
Yeah.
The Sicilian with their own language and their own way of, and he's very positive about that.
Well, yeah, you got to think Sicily's been conquered by everyone. The Moors, the Vikings, everybody.
Yeah, notice the Vikings.
Oh yeah.
Well, since Vikings were taking over England, they were taking over Sicily.
Everybody's taking over Sicily. Everybody. So
I just found that incredible.
Yeah. So you look at the ruins, and they're from every era imaginable. And actually, before I shot this, about 3 months earlier, I was shooting in Jordan in Petra.
Right.
Wadi Rum, where Lawrence of Arabia was filmed.
Yeah.
And if you look at the ruins of Petra, there's this trade route that goes right through Petra, right through Sicily, into Africa, and you look at the ruins in Agrigento area or Siracusa area, and you look at the ones in Jordan, you swear that these must have been built by the same people. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so and then at the same time in Sicily, you'll see this ancient ruin, thousands and thousands of years old, and right beside it is a World War II German pillbox, totally intact. The highway's paved around it, and nobody tears it down. Just let's just drive around it. No, not a problem.
Well, maybe it's fortune or misfortune to be placed right in the center of the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So all the forces, from the Phoenicians, from the Romans, as you say, from the other barbarian tribes, also the Vikings,
yes,
and also the Visigoths. I mean, they were just whoever was trampling through the Mediterranean trampled all over.
That's right. I mean, there's
left their mark.
And there's a huge Arab influence there as well.
Yeah, the Moors. I mean, they're from North Africa.
That's right, and including the music has a lot of influence in it, and the ruins, and it's everywhere. And some of the dialogue, it's derived from. For example, we have a lot of donkeys in this movie, and the Sicilian word for donkey is sheku, whereas the Italian word is asino. So where the term ass probably derives from, right? But sheku is actually derived from a term for sheik, because the sheiks would ride these donkeys from village to village and collect taxes. So they were known as sheku because they rode the sheiks around to collect the taxes. So it's a derogatory term, I guess, for the donkey.
Well, we probably should, since we are on the movie, do a quick précis without doing any spoilers. But tell me about the film. What is the story of the film?
It's about an elderly man trying to negotiate his way into heaven. However, he can't get through until he goes back and reconnects with his son, repairs a relationship with his son.
Played by Charlie.
Played by Charlie. And he needs to regroup a family that's been feuding for generations and help everyone find love in places they never imagined. So, and it's also a fish out of water story, as you mentioned, because the beginning of the movie starts with Charlie's character. He's lost his father. His father is dead. And in essence, that is his connection to the old country.
Right.
That is his connection to all of his roots. And though he's a linguistics professor and he knows everything about Italy, he hasn't been back to Italy since he was an infant. So he knows nothing about it. He's never touched the earth, which is what his father is so emphatic about, that he speaks it, but he's never touched it. He's never had it in the grasp of his hands. So the journey of this, and it is a journey, to go back to Sicily and spread his ashes in the lemon groves of Sicily, but also to reconnect the families, find love, and have everyone find love. So it's a bit of a ruckus roller coaster ride that people need to take. But it's also heartwarming, and I call it a comedy with heart sort of thing.
Shot in Sicily?
Shot in Canada and Sicily.
What part of Sicily?
Siracusa area, and we shot in like 28 different cities, because I just like, I want that shot, I want that, because there's so many beautiful locations. So we had to, like, okay, I have a second unit on this, we got this, so we had to spread around a bit.
With an Italian crew, did you take any?
Yeah, we had a Canadian crew, and we had an Italian crew as well.
Okay, and that worked out union-wise and?
Well, we were low budget, non-union, everybody in the trenches, everybody, and that's the thing about it. When you do a picture, people have to be committed, really committed.
Absolutely.
But when you do a low budget picture on 3 continents, 28 cities, and enough donkeys to make a grown man cry, you need people that are really, really committed, And so, it's like our actress. She is, I had no idea how famous she is in Italy. And so she is, she has a radio show every morning. She's a television host and superstar, and she is also Italy's prima ballerina, all in one package. So, and she sent me a tape, and at first I thought, no, this isn't right. And then she sent me another tape. I thought, oh, she wants to make this happen. So I looked at it again, I thought, oh, there's something about this, And she was brilliant, and I am so thankful she was in this picture. Her performance was absolutely, perfection.
She's a real spark.
She is a real spark, a real perfectionist, and she is a seasoned veteran, because she has such dedication and commitment. And she was learning English to do the movie, for the role.
Give her name again?
Rosella Brescia.
Now, Nick Mancuso.
Nick Mancuso.
Burt Young.
Yes.
Tell me about those two. How those two are.
Burt Young, he's Paulie in the movie Rocky.
Absolutely.
And so I thought I wanted some sort of anchor for our family, our patriarch or wannabe patriarch sort of thing.
The raucous family.
Yeah, well, so he was great. We brought him in, we shot him, and he was this crazy character who was, calling the shots from Canada as he sends out Nick Mancuso. Yeah. So Nick Mancuso is his wannabe mafioso son. And Nick, I don't think he's ever been in a comedy before. I don't think so. He's done like 300 movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been working since God knows.
Oh yeah, 300 movies. He's a romantic lead or a bad guy or something like that. And a handsome man, a great, really committed guy. And I'm so thankful he was on this picture. The scenes, we shot him and they cut themselves. They just came together. And he was, he knew his stuff, and he was in the character, and he delivered, sort of thing.
Well, I did go, by chance I met Nick years and years ago, around the Ticket to Heaven days.
Yes.
Where he got his first break. The guy is working non-stop.
Yeah, yeah.
I looked at his IMDb, 5 films. That guy's what, 75? I mean, he's not young. He's not spring chicken anymore, and he's like 5 films in a year.
Yeah.
Who works like that anymore?
Yeah. No, he's
some guy who's a workaholic. That's the guy.
No, he's a good guy.
They sort of looked at him and said, "Wait a minute, that's Nick."
Yeah.
And then, but because he's made up a bit, and he's playing this sort of wannabe mafioso, or pretending to be a wannabe mafioso.
Yeah, and sort of
people.
Yeah, playing this sort of stereotypical machismo sort of guy.
A buffoon type. I mean,
yes. And then he takes a complete turn by the end of the movie. We realize, oh, okay, there's a little something else to this character,
So anyway, for a low-budget film, so you put together quite a nice cast.
I'm really happy. We had a great cast. We also had a young boy by the name of Tommaso Sinelli. This was his first movie. He just spent 2 weeks with James Cameron. It was between him and another kid to get the Avatar series.
Right.
The other kid got it. But Tommaso's in everything. He played Harvey, young Harvey, in Suits, for example.
Okay. All right.
He's in Titans. He's in He's a brilliant actor. He had to learn this particular dialect of Sicilian for the movie at 10 years old, and he nailed it, you know?
So let's talk a little bit about, because we all know one of the labor of love, but how damn difficult filmmaking still is, especially for independence.
Yes.
Where you have to put your heart and soul and years.
Yeah.
For not necessarily a huge return.
Yeah.
But enough to get you going to the next one, I assume.
Don't know.
But, so
it's coming out August 30th, so be there. Buy tickets.
Road to Lemon Grove, that's what we're here for. So how did it come together? For as much as you want to reveal, how did it come together? I mean, you must have been hustling all over the place. You got yourself a distribution deal. You got a release through Cineplex.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is it, 16 cities or something? Or
we just got one more added, so it's 17.
Yeah.
And
on Labor Day.
Yeah, Labor Day.
With Cineplex.
And you know what? Here's the thing.
That's something, man.
But nobody releases movies on Labor Day, traditionally. You know what I mean? Because everybody's on holidays or whatever. But here's the thing.
It's a big holiday. It's not a big film going.
That's right.
In the summer, people go.
So that's the con. The pro is nobody's releasing movies on Labor Day, hopefully. But here's the other thing is, Italians came here after World War II. Most of them came here as laborers. And we thought, in honor of that, why not on Labor Day, you know?
There used to be, and I'm hoping this doesn't come out bad, there used to be a cliche about Toronto, because my family came at the same time a lot of Italians came, which is how it was post-Second World War. When both countries were devastated and were living on ration cards. And
yes.
I mean, presumably Italy was worse off than England, but England was still in a pretty bad place.
Yeah.
So my parents in '55 decided what a lot of Italians decided.
Yeah.
To come to a decent place where you can make a decent living. And in those days you could, of course. The 50s, 60s, great economy, booming.
Yeah.
Italians were very successful. But the cliche was that the Brits ran the city, the Italians built the city.
Uh-huh.
Now, this was sort of pointed out when there was a famous accident building the North subway line, going up to Finch, wherever it went to, or Egmont, or whatever. There was a cave-in, and they're building the line of the cave-in, and there was like 5 dead workers, all Italian.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, wait a minute, all these guys Italians are building, you know, it was like a sense that this city was changing from its English aristocracy to a more working class European.
Yeah.
And that was great because it really was. Now, I have met some Italians who were very resentful of that time because they never ever got recognitions and they were treated as, excuse me, very derogatory terms.
Yeah.
As all new immigrants were. And of course, us being British, we were welcome, and my father was, had a management position, and we had a suburban house.
Yeah.
And my mother always went downtown to the poor people. Well, the poor people turned out to be the Italian immigrants who were living around Bathurst and College and, around there.
Yeah.
But there was a sense that the city was changing with the Italians.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there is that stereotype, and certain Italians don't want to be recognized as the labor only, because you got professionals in every field. But they built this country, and they continue to build this country, sort of thing, in every walk of life. I mean, the chief justices to whatever, But that era, I mean, my wife's father at that time coming up, it was illegal for more than 4 Italians to congregate in the street corner. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Some Italians got interned during World War II,
Yeah, I know.
And my wife, even some kids, other kids told her they're not allowed to hang out with her anymore because you're Italian. I mean, that's a little hard to swallow.
I'm not suggesting that the British heritage of this city was anything to be bragging about.
Yeah.
It really was a button-down fucking Presbyterian, Scottish, Irish, English, you dirty Italians, But fortunately, that has all changed.
It has, yeah.
Fortunately.
Yeah, and they are, from building the country, they are the builders,
Also, they also had the best freaking gardens. Italians and the Portuguese, like the English, they love their gardens, they love their roses. You go into the Italian-Portuguese section of town, you got these great gardens.
Yeah.
And then they put the grapevines in the back. So it's fabulous, right? But uptight Brits are like, that's not proper. But anyway, that's a different story. But that comes out in the movie, though. A lot of that stuff comes out. I was interested that Charlie specifically speaks about that. It speaks about the language.
Yeah, well, you got to think, the language that came here after World War II, in World War II, in that area, you got to think Calabria region, southern Italy, or Sicily, very poor, very agricultural. they didn't have, never mind television, they didn't even have radios for most people. So the language was very regional, dialects in each little pocket. Everybody had dialects. So the dialects that migrated here, those languages, after World War II, the radios came out and Italian became homogenized. And they took on, I believe, the Florentine language as the main language sort of thing. It was either that or Sicilian that was going to be the main language. It ended up being the Florentine. And, but these languages, these dialects that they speak in Hamilton, for example, or wherever, they don't even exist in Italy anymore.
Right.
You know, and they come back. My wife went back there to do some work when she worked with MAC Cosmetics. She was meeting with Vogue Italia, and the woman goes, "You speak like my grandmother," you know. I mean, so it was cute, it was endearing, but it was like, this is interesting because that language, like I said, didn't exist anymore, you know.
Well, they have done certainly a lot of outreach with Italians to get over that sense that they were just the laborers and they were just the working class people. They've done a lot of outreach from there.
Yeah.
And the papers now, I mean, obviously Italians, I'm not so sure run the city, but they've obviously reached a different position than they were when they came across, right? Yeah. Now, interesting enough though, they were the poor people from the southern part of Italy.
Well, some. I mean, if they came from Rome, not likely, you know what I mean? But if they came from, you know, Calabria or Sicily, yeah, probably, you know, agrarian sort of background.
Interesting enough, my neighbor, his parents were exactly that. They came after the war and they were from southern Italy. Yeah. Not only that, this is a weird thing, is that his father served in Ethiopia, forced to, of course, by Italian government. Yeah. People know the history. Italians were in Ethiopia, had created an empire there. So he had to serve there, but they were in 1941, they were driven out of Ethiopia, and a lot of Italians were kept in prisoner of war camps. In Kenya, instead of shipping them home, they put them into the British. And you know, my father was serving in Kenya. So I got a guy whose father was serving in the Italian, and my father was serving in the British. And the possibility that over a prisoner of war camp, these two guys actually came across each other, and their sons are living 2 blocks away from each other, I think it's fabulous. Yeah. It does sense that this country is cliche, right?
Yes. I mean,
we are a multicultural country. We're not a British country anymore. We're not an Italian country. We're a Chinese, we're a Filipino, we're Italian, we're British, we're God knows.
Well, I did a film years ago called T-O-24. And
I forgot to mention that, but please, I'm glad you
brought it up. So, you know, I've been a big fan of, you know, Baraka, Koyaanisqatsi, those type of movies. And so I did this picture, and it's all about a day in the life of Toronto. And I wanted to franchise this and do this around the world, you know, all different mega centers and thing, in a sense. And the thing about Toronto is it's United Nations labeled it as the most multi-ethnic city in the world. And that's what we are. Right. And so I was able to do this global picture in one microcosm, in the city of Toronto. And I try to show all walks of life and all ethnicities, and showing that we are just like a symbiotic ticking timepiece that together we all make the city tick, in a sense. And so it starts at, you know, dawn, and it goes right through to dawn the next day. And we go through the rituals and the gluttony and the business and the worshiping and all those different type of things from all different cultures and ethnicities. And it was a brilliant piece to make. It was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
You got funding from the city of Toronto on that one, didn't you? You had got funding from the city of Toronto for that one?
No, that one all came from Omni Television, actually.
Oh, did it? Because I remember being at a preview screening at TIFF.
Yeah, we had it at the TIFF.
The mayor, David Miller.
David Miller, I invited him because I actually filmed him in the piece.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we also had a short little piece in the thing, and it was during that G20, G8, whatever it was.
Mess.
When one car was on fire and it looked like the whole city was on fire. Well, Harper didn't want me to have my video distributed at this center with all these G8 sort of thing, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this, but Miller and them, they brought the DVDs in and distributed gave it to people of all the different countries so that they could share in what's part of our city. Right. I thought the guy was brilliant, you know.
What are you saying? Do you have footage of the riot?
No. I'm saying during that time.
During the time.
Yeah, that was after, and the Harper government didn't want me to distribute my film to all these other countries. And Miller did come on board and helped out, you know.
It sounds spiteful, that sounds like Harper, you know? But what you did about that, and it's interesting, how many cinematographers did you use on it? Was that all your work, or?
Well, the sales pitch on that movie is to say we had all these cinematographers for over 24 hours. The problem is, that morning when we had people distributed all over, the biggest rainstorm in frickin' history hit the city. I couldn't afford to hire everybody else again, so I spent 9 months just shooting all the footage, 90% of it myself. My neighbors referred it
You
to it.
should say that, because nowhere does that.
No.
And I did the research on it, saying, oh wait, didn't you get credit? And what is going, but you basically, because you got rained out,
Yeah,
you ended up having to do most of the stuff yourself.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. And you know, we shot my
Bravo to you, there's a lot of good work there. There's a lot.
Thank you.
A lot of, your skills as a cinematographer seem to be quite acute. Because we're also thinking, somebody did mention, is you did some work on the Paul Gross film.
Yeah, Hyena Road, yes.
You spent some time in Afghanistan as a cinematographer, not as a director or producer.
That's right, that's right. It was one of the funnest pictures I've ever worked on.
In Afghanistan?
In Afghanistan.
In Kabul or where?
In Kandahar.
Oh, okay.
And then we went off into a forward operating base. We were as deep into Taliban territory as you can go. Very few soldiers even go to.
Hopefully with an escort.
I had a sniper as my bodyguard. We all had, bodyguards with us, but we were escorted with the military. We flew with Chinooks, and I was filming live extractions of CIA operatives and all kind of. How they gave us carte blanche is all because of Paul. You know what I mean? Because of Passion Day, right? And his homage to the Canadian military and that. They gave us, it was incredible what they let us film. And so we filmed in Afghanistan, and there was another team that shot part of the movie in Manitoba, and then I filmed in Jordan as well with the team there.
Okay.
It was so much fun, and working with Paul, he's just a brilliant guy. He's just really a great guy.
Well, as long as I've spent in the film business, I would say that Paul is our one genuine film star.
Yeah, and he's a genuine Canadian.
And he's a genuine Canadian, and he's the one who can actually pull clout.
Yeah.
He could phone the Prime Minister, he could phone Stephen Harper, and Stephen Harper would take that call. Guarantee you, because the popularity, I've always struck by that. It was either Sarah Polley or Paul Gross would be the two major stars, that we have. And either one of them could run for Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And probably get elected, Are you doing some more work as a cinematographer, or is that part of your career?
Yeah, I just shot a couple of different movies for some other people, and there's a few talks of a few different things in the works. But it's all talk till the checks clear the bank, so we'll see how it all pans out.
It is a brutal business.
It's tough.
It's a tough
you gotta wear many hats. And that's why I'm a cinematographer, a director, a producer, and all those writer. But at the same time, when I'm assigned those hats, I wear those hats. I don't go in, if somebody else is directing, I don't go in and, you got to do this. No, I support them. I do my best to make sure their vision comes to life. And I think that's important for everybody and every filmmaker, young filmmaker to know is this is a teamwork business, and it's all about, problem solving. And if you can problem solve together as a team, that's when you get a winning formula.
It is genuinely a collaborative art.
It is.
And if you work in there from an ego point of view, it's not going to work.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's egos that does this and that and that. You know what? It's a team.
It is a team
thing, and you got to fight for things. You do have to fight for things, and you got to push people beyond what they think their boundaries are. But you got to do it in a way that is constructive and still empower them at the same time. It's very important.
So let's focus back on Lemon Grove.
Yes.
So the opening is in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
So what's your schedule? Are you going on a press tour? Or?
Yeah, we got all kinds of different interviews going on. There's, it's interesting, a bunch of restaurants are emulating the final feast that takes place in the movie.
Which is sit down for what, 50?
Well, it's got like 60, 80 people or whatever. So they actually have the actual menu we had in the movie.
Okay.
They're making these long family-style tables,
right.
And they're all sitting down for this feast, and everybody that sits at the table gets their own ticket to go to the movie and all that sort of stuff. It started with this restaurant in Winnipeg called Mona Lisa. They already sold out. They're doing a second day sitting or some of that, so it's quite interesting. So there's all kinds of marketing. We're doing a lot of grassroots stuff, a lot of stuff around the Italian community.
And who's East Liberty? East Liberty's handling it for you.
No, it's not. It's a half-town company,
okay.
and so yeah, so it's sort of switched over and midstream, but it's okay. It's all good. And it's actually empowered us a lot more, sort of thing. It's good.
And what is your fond hopes?
Where's my what?
Fond hopes for the film. I mean, obviously, bums in the seat.
Bums in the seats, yes.
And you got the next one in line. Usually, people who are working to the degree that you're working at is not doing a one-off.
No, well, we're hoping that with this movie we can, we want to go international with it, obviously. We are thinking our theatrical could be sparking interest with our broadcasters and all those type of things. So we've held off on a lot of territories in that until we did this theatrical run. And so we're doing a big push to get this happening.
Okay.
And it's interesting, little independent Canadian movies, they usually get released in one theater, maybe two, sort of thing. Cineplex is giving us 17 theaters across Canada, opening on the same day, and it's brilliant. I hope we fill the seats now. You know what I mean? But we had some sort of, in essence, we had some test screenings. We entered it into 3 different film festivals. And we won 4 awards at these festivals.
Yeah, it was the Edmonton, you got the Edmonton International Film Festival, yep. And the Italian Contemporary Film Festival.
Yeah, and the one in Taormina. And we were kind of selective where we wanted to, because I wanted to test an Italian-Canadian audience, or Italian-American audience, a comedy audience, and also an Italian audience, see how it would fare. And we got, like I said, awards in each of these. And, with the Italian Contemporary Film Festival, we sold out our first day, we sold it out in like 3 days. So they asked for a second day. I was humming and hawing because that means I don't make money off of it, sort of thing. But we thought we'd do another day, and that sold out in a week, sort of thing. And there was 150 people trying to get rush tickets that were turned away. So I think there's an audience. I think there's an audience out there to watch.
But also, what you've got here is my experience. There are 2 distinct sort of openings for Canadian films. What you're doing right now, which is a fall before the winter films come in.
Yeah.
So there's with a lot of festivals going on, so you can get a film in there, and you can also get a film in around the sort of February, March period, after the Christmas, but before the onslaught of the spring, summer releases.
Yeah.
And my experience is that those 2 release dates for Canadian films are the most promising.
Uh-huh.
Because if you go at the end of the year, you're up against the Christmas film.
Yeah.
If you go in the summer, you're up against Avengers and God knows what.
Yeah, there's so many variables,
So it is, but it's good to learn.
Yes.
And trust me, I've been at this for a very long time, and your comment about the independent Canadian film, and it's always broke my heart.
Yeah.
Trust me, it broke my heart. That there's been years and years, and what I would designate 2 weeks at the Carlton, which was max.
Yeah.
You're not getting any attention.
Yeah.
I always used to say it was, and as a critic and as someone, 2 people and a dog, right? This is what you've done for 2 or 3 years, and you're getting an audience of 2 people.
Yeah.
At 2 weeks at the Carlton.
Yeah.
Now, as heartbreaking as that is, someone's got enough faith in you that you've actually got to that point. So don't feel badly about it, because do you know how many films don't even make it to your, 17 Cineplex? I mean, that is extraordinary achievement.
Yeah.
Still in this friggin' day and age, it is really, really tough.
Yeah.
I used to track Canadian films. 60% don't go beyond those 2 weeks to the Carlton.
Yeah.
For all the time and effort, for all the telephone money, for all the OMTC money, that's the truth, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
But if you get freaked out by that, don't get into business.
Well, yeah, and we're really breaking the mold in a number of areas as well, because the type of story that we're telling, it's not a film festival type of picture. And film festivals all want edgy, whatever.
Arty.
Yeah, arty, and they don't want a comedy like this. They want films, and
They're too mainstream for what they're looking
at. Yeah, I met with a guy that runs the Berlinale in the Berlin Festival, and he didn't even see my festival. We were just walking down the street at American Film Market, and he says, you know what, we wouldn't take your film because that's not what my audience wants. They want films that they won't see in the movie theaters, and bragging rights to say they saw that movie or whatever. Yeah. And this is like my, people refer to it as my big fat Italian funeral, and it's that sort of genre. It's heartfelt. There's some light comedy in there, and there's a story and it's targeting to an older audience. It's not targeting 11-year-olds, and it's not an action movie. And I love those movies, but that's not this.
Right.
And this is sort of targeted at people that love to go to movies in an era that had different kinds of movies and a variety of movies, and And I think there's an audience out there, an underserved audience out there.
The more mature ones that are fed up with all the, superhero films.
Yeah, it's not a superhero
It's
picture.
it's a real film about a real something. It's
Yeah.
about something.
It's about something.
It's not about the world blowing up and everyone's gonna die or, they reappear again,
Yeah, I might blow up if nobody goes to the theater, but it's a sweet story, and it's a fun ride.
All right. Well, I'm gonna leave it on that, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna thank you very much, Dale.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna really wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
You're a lot of fun to talk to.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it, Darwin?